And I even got caught up in the whole THICC case controversy. Like, you know what I mean? They made that change. And I immediately took to Twitter. I was like, what? Like, no, I thought it was dumb. I was like telling people in my chat, I was like, I can't think of a single reason. And he was like, here's the reason. And not only here's the reason, but here's the reason we didn't tell you we were going to do it. And regardless of if I thought that was a good enough reason or not, it put me in my place to just go, there was a reason. Like, hey, like, you don't know how to make a video game. And it was a really just like the first half, it was a hard watch, and it was fairly humbling to me as somebody who feels like I play this game a lot and I should know.
Dude, I've got the conversation on my phone because this is the day it all went down. And given the time zones and everything, it was like the middle of the night in Russia. Yeah. I'm sure he's probably I probably woke him up. I was just so annoyed with everybody being super butthurt, and I at the same time was like rolling my eyes, like another change that, like, whether or not it was a good change, like I knew that that's one of those things where it was like it would be like removing the gamma. Yes, but only for people who bought the game from this point forward. Exactly. Remember how how all these people have been screaming for so long, remove the gamma. Who cares if people are butthurt? Trust me, removing the gamma. if they removed protector cases from the game, do you know how many fucking people it would have been like what we saw with the thick apocalypse times 1,000. Holy shit! Yeah. Can you imagine? They'd be like burning down the fucking headquarters. Yeah. But so I sent him a message basically saying, hey, so there's lots of people wondering, like, I just wanted to know, like, what was the reason? So that, like, if it's a good reason, I'll defend it. If it's a bad reason, I'll tell him. And he basically said that he said it was like too OP of a reward. Everybody sold it for 14 million rubles. So I was like, I was trying to get LEDXs and I lost 15 million today trying to get it. So I'm like, it's not that OP. So I think that I don't think that the reasoning that they had was necessarily, I don't agree with it, but it's really interesting because I can literally see his facial expression change in the text message because I said that was the only quest reward anybody looks forward to, and he says, of course, times are changing, traders are getting more rough, and then he was silent for 10 minutes, and then all of a sudden he said, damn, overwhelming reaction, didn't imagine it, I'll figure something out. 10 minutes later, so he got out of bed. Yeah. Was like, nah, dude, it's just a fucking, oh shit, it's my inbox. Dude, seriously. Like, he genuinely Twitter. Didn't know. And then literally, so this was at 2:56. At 3:08, he said, I brought them back. Yep. So it was less than 20 minutes after I pointed out that the community had been flipping out. He actually didn't know. And I fully believe that he didn't know unless he's pulling some epic long con on me via text message, but I don't think so. And he wasn't even in the office. Given like the times, again, it was probably like fucking end of the day. He actually was like asking me if I could check if it was done, because I think he probably phoned somebody and was probably like, can you go make this change? And like, because they're not in the office because of fucking Corona, it's he's got to call somebody. He was basically like, can you and your viewers check that it's back up, kind of thing. And I ended up logging back on. I was playing Valorant at the time too. I was just super annoyed that people kept coming and being butthurt about Tarkov, that I sent him the message. But I mean, so it just goes to show you how much he cares about the thing. It does. He was my fucking spirit animal during that whole thing. I was like, Nikita, I'm with you about how the stresses and the bullshit, and we don't have to talk about this here, but like the criticism and people being toxic douchebags and not being constructive and telling you how they think you should do something when they're not qualified or they don't have any context about your reasons, and you don't have to give them context about any reasons about any of the fucking things that you do. So if you do get it, you're lucky. I was like, I'm right there with you, man. There with you. It was such an amalgamation of everything, right? Like a representation of the fact that like BSG isn't perfect, because even with the greatest of intentions, I feel like the reason I was mad wasn't because I wasn't going to get one. I hadn't completed either one of those quests, but for me, it doesn't affect my gameplay. You know what I mean? But the fact that, it felt like it just drove a wedge further between like the Chads and the sweaties and the people who play more regularly, because like all the sweaties that completed the quests, everybody else is level 17, and it's like, well, rip. But
it was everything. It was that, but then it was like, yeah, it was the response was like Nikita doesn't care, or he's X, Y, or Z, and it's like he cares a lot. Like he put it back. He was asleep for so much of it, and then the whole like he spoke, which he didn't message you, but he spoke on the podcast about how it also had to do with like the RMT, because these guys who their full-time job is to sell rubles, buy 17 of them, and then they turn their EOD stash into like an infinite just place to organize all this stuff, and then they sell it. You know what I mean? And it's like
you'd think it would be easy. Like I'm sitting there thinking, if I was in their shoes, the first thing I would do is build like a fucking histogram, a graph of every single player and their stash value, because I bet you'd see the average players would all be around here, and then you'd see like the Giga Chads, the landmarks, and then you'd see like streamers, and then you'd see the cheaters, and the cheaters are the ones that have like 20 billion ruble stashes or whatever.
That's
right there.
That's what,
right there. Flag those. Don't ban them. Take a week and fucking watch them, and get some data scientists, to fucking observe what they're doing, and then
that was what. Yeah, that was immediately what my buddy said. He was like, they have to have the ability to have a graph to just see like how much everybody's stash value is. And there's like the average person, the solid player, the Giga Chad. It's got to be an unreal, like, the cheater. You know what I mean? Like their stash value with 47 THICC items cases in it. It's just with nothing in them. It's like 1 billion rubles. You know what I mean? And it's like, so it's just, it feels like. But once again, I don't want to speak out of turn, because every time I do, I'm wrong. You know what I mean? There's just more to it. But my thought was more about the whole, like, it felt like, and I could be wrong here because, my community is relatively small and doesn't represent the whole, but
you're wrong because your community is small.
Oh yeah, no, I feel that. It felt like 3 or 4 months ago, like the community was just like, ban the cheaters, it's cheaters. Why? Like every tweet ever, like, look at this awesome fan art. This guy, ban the cheaters. How about you fix your game before you start promoting fan art? Like it was just cheaters. And now it feels like it's just like no matter what you do, it's wrong. And everything they're doing is trying to combat RMT and cheaters. And so it's like you don't get to have your cake and eat it too. You know what I mean? And this was a point I wanted to make. I found this astounding that I got all of this information in 24 hours. It was just like incredibly convenient. Okay, so we get the podcast and we get Nikita talking about how 30% of company time is devoted to banning cheaters and dealing with RMT. He said over 65% of his personal time is like manually reviewing cheaters or supposed cheaters for all this kind of stuff, which as a really brief digression goes back to, when he's in charge of all these changes that we want to make about cool things in the game, like, hey, time to kill, he just doesn't have the like mental capacity to think or process those things because he just spent all day watching people who were maybe cheaters, maybe not cheaters. So that's one whole thing. It's like the game would just be so much better if he didn't have to do that. So we got that. We got so much company time, so much of his personal time. It's all on this. It's all on this. And he brought up another great thing, which I've seen all over Reddit, all over Twitter. It's like, I wish, EA, I wish a real company would make Tarkov. I wish, EA or some big publisher would make Tarkov.
That was the fucking best, most honest fucking thing I've ever heard him say. Was like, I want this game to be great. And he's like, we're doing the best we can. I want somebody else who can, I was like, damn, Nikita. That takes fucking... I love that. Okay, so it was all that, and that was fantastic. And now within 24 hours, these are the different things that I see in my Twitter feed. What's the biggest video game in the universe? Fortnite. Okay? Fortnite Chapter 2, Season 3 was delayed 3 times and is dropping this weekend, I think, finally. And we... so hard that customs expansion. You said it was coming in 12.5 and now it's coming in 12.7. Fortnite Chapter 2 Season 3 was delayed 3 separate times. That's probably a team of like 60 dudes working on that feature.
And they felt confident enough to put a date on it, delay it, put another date on it, delay it, put another date on it, delay it, put another date on it, and now we're getting it this weekend. I don't know when it's coming. Okay, so that the biggest, and then in less than 24 hours, I'm scrolling through and Nick Merckx posts on his Twitter, I just played Warzone for 12 hours and I legitimately think I got cheated every game. It's getting ridiculous. And Tim the Tap Man immediately comments and goes, how bad was it after I left? And Nick was like, so bad. So it's like, I don't know how big BSG is. There's like 20 dudes out in Russia.
The
all
customs
working
expansion,
from home.
I bet you, it's like Dimitri, his wife just went into labor on Tuesday. That is what's delaying the customs expansion.
Yeah.
Like when you're that small, one or two fucking dudes, the fact that they're all working remote with coronavirus stuff and all the infrastructure and all the bullshit and all of the unknowns, it's just like, fuck off,
it's just
people.
like nothing. There's just no valid argument. You know what I mean? Like, ban the cheaters. Go tell Activision. You know what I mean? If it's that easy, there's no anti-cheat on this world that they can't afford. You know what I mean? And these guys, they're top content creators, can't play a game without getting hacked. We're delaying Fortnite content 3 separate times. It's like, man, comparatively, BSG is just like an S tier, a top tier, like platinum, multi-platinum dev team. They're doing so good.
They've made such a good game and such a big game that we expect. Like, they've tricked us into thinking that they're a fucking AAA dev company.
We expect more than we expect from Fortnite or Activision. It's unbelievable. So, like, just to get all of that, it was just so in my face, I couldn't unsee it, right? We get this insanely humble and honest statement from Nikita, like, looking at the camera like, please, EA, make this game. Please, like, I just want this game to be good. And then I see Fortnite delaying content, and then I see cheaters all over Warzone, and I'm just sitting to myself, I'm like, dude, this, you know what I mean? This game, they said at one point that they had originally said if we ever reach 30,000 concurrent players, that we're winners, that we're millionaires, that we did it. You know what I mean? And the fact that they're not even out of beta with 200,000 people playing during a drops event, or even 200,000 people playing during the 12.5 wipe. It's just like, we need to back off.